Um, Me instantly forgetting what the fuck I was just saying.
Welcome
Uh,
back to the Overwatch League discussion video. I'm your host, Diamond Colossus, with our good old buddy.
Fracture. Yep, that's me. So I was away for a week. Uh, and Diamond just didn't get his ass in the Discord for another one, so it's been 2 weeks. And of course, during this time is when everything went down. Um, Literally the day I got up to Ottawa to see my hoe, which Diamond flamed me for putting my hoe before him, my bro. Uh, KDG got signed to Toronto. Uh, Muze got signed to the Glads recently. Fielder and Fearless went to Fuel. Uh, and Surefour announced that he was taking a break. And probably the most wild thing that happened that Diamond you wanted to talk about is Mano to Philly. So I'll let you take it away here.
I did, because if anyone remembers from our past video, I mentioned that I thought Philly needed a new main tank. Not because I thought Sato was bad, but because I don't want Sato doing everything. This makes a lot of sense. Now, a lot of people, like Platchat, have said that it's a bit question mark if Philly want to play aggressive. Mano has looked very bad playing aggressively at times. It's very true. But they also mentioned, which I do tend to agree with, that there is a chance part of that was the structure of how New York just was in general. And because he's now on a new structure and a new coaching staff, we could see that change. He's now under... Who did Philly pick up? They picked up Junkbuck, was it? No, not Junkbuck. 9K. They picked up 9K as their head coach. And that is still a really good head coach right there. So he can... I want to see what he can do with Mano. And I just think Mano's better than Sato, hands down. So I think you should be kind of scared of this roster going in. They haven't released anything that made them extremely good and have just gained things that should arguably make them better.
Yeah. I agree with you there because we were talking the previous episode. The only way to because the other thing that I think I added to your statement last episode was we discussed Poco being more motivated because he had Fury coming and chomping at the bit for playtime, right? So that put some motivation into Poco to grind and get better. And I think that's what this Mono signing does with Philly is it gives Sato that motivation to get better. What I'll add on to this is that I think Sato might actually be the better main tank, and I also think that might be a very big factor, or a very big factor in that was having KDG there as the head coach.
I'll say this. I'll concede that he's the better Orisa. Mono's Orisa is not something I've ever been super high on. I think it's looked pretty poor in the past. Especially when they try to play aggressive, his superchargers are really out of place. So I do concede that Sato probably has the better Orisa. I think their Winstons are close, and I would probably argue that Mono's Reinhardt's better. But in the end, only
maybe I
thing
think
that will matter is how they actually perform next year and who gets the starting playtime.
Yeah, I think to how you reference Platchat's point, Sato is I guess a more aggressive main tank than Mono would be, or a more the best way I can put it is in traditional sports and even in Overwatch, and this carries over, is you have playmakers, you have people that set things up, that make things happen, that initiate plays. Sidney Crosby in hockey is one of the greatest playmakers. He racks up so many points because he just racks up the assists. I mean, he also gets a pretty good amount of goals, and they're quite flashy. But he makes shit happen, and you could probably find examples of that in basketball. I'm from Toronto, so Kyle Lowry would probably be that. But here for Philly, I would say that Sato is going to be Sato versus Mono. Sato's going to be more of your playmaker. Um, and he's gonna I think he's gonna be a lot better at initiating. But I think if you're looking to maybe shift up the way the team plays and be less aggressive, I think having Mono in there to kind of because I think Mono makes plays, but in a more subtle way by being more passive and maybe baiting the enemy team or the enemy main tank into a position that they don't want to be in. And I think that's where Mono's main tank or playmaking style lies. Uh, so that's what I'd say. And I do think having Mono there is going to put more pressure on Sato, and they can actually push each other to be better.
I would say that with Mono, the I don't think your main tank needs to be the playmaker in a lot of cases. If they are, to me, there's a sign that shows a bit of a problem. Your playmaker should really be coming from your DPS. You should be making space as the main tank to give your DPS the ability to make those plays. That's how the game overall functions. And, that doesn't mean you can't pop off as main tank. You absolutely can. But, main tank and main support in a lot of cases are thankless roles because your goal is to do a specific thing that isn't necessarily get the kills. And
Yes.
I think you might be right that when it comes to initiation, again, Mono has a bit of a problem sometimes at least in the past, when playing aggressive. But under 9K, who I'm going to sit there and say is a better coach than KDG. I want to see what he can do with Mono. Maybe again, Sato may start. We don't know. This just because they signed him doesn't mean Sato doesn't start. But I like this pickup because again, as you mentioned, it might motivate Sato. Sato's not having to do everything. You're not relying on one main tank. If Sato randomly just doesn't perform well, put in Mono. Boom. If Mono's not performing well, put in Sato. Boom. You're not stressing out and you're not worried.
Yeah. I'm gonna differ with you there though, Diamond, on main tank or on DPS having to be the playmakers. I think DPS in general, or like generally speaking here for Overwatch, they find picks, but they're not like you're not first through the door. And when you're first through the door, you gotta go in with a bang and you gotta make something happen. Um,
No, you don't. You got to just make space.
you gotta
You
make,
don't have to make something happen. You have to make space.
but making space involves making a bang. I think, right?
No, most cases it's not.
I,
In a lot of cases, that
you don't have
space,
to
that
find a
bang's
pick
gonna come
as
from your DPS.
you don't have to find a pick as main tank, but when I'm saying making a bang, like let's say it's attack on Hanamura, like there are some times where I'm just like my DPS are having a hard time finding a pick, so I need to go in and like basically you can't just necessarily slowly make that space. Sometimes you've got to go in, and going in is going to be like making like a quick charge onto the enemy team's Reinhardt or the enemy team's main tank, which then opens up things for your DPS to find that pick. But at the end of the day, finding that charge or that pin on the enemy main tank is that bang that like shocks their team and perhaps shocks your team into action.
I'm. We'll just have to agree to disagree in this case, as I don't think main tank. I definitely think main tank is still an unsung hero, and is having a really good main tank is a big difference maker in the Overwatch League right now. But
I would actually say that main tank is arguably the most important role in in Overwatch, and that might just be me like stroking myself a little bit there. But I kind of think it is because the biggest difference between top teams and bottom tier teams is their main tanks. It's not or maybe just their tank line, because there are far more good DPS players and I think support players in the league than there are tanks or main tanks, and
I
that's the biggest difference in my opinion.
I was gonna. That's what I was gonna get at. I agree from the standpoint that, in comparison, there are just so little main tanks in the league and in general. They are so the level of difference is way more drastic. That's why I think you are right when it comes to the role is the most important. But I don't. So it really does matter a lot in this case. What I will say is I don't think it's tank line because I think there's a lot of off tanks. The next I would say is main support. but flex supports are a dime a dozen, DPS are a dime a dozen, and there's actually a lot of off tanks in the world. So
Yeah.
but
On the note of
keep on
main
this main
tanks, Fearless to Fuel, and we'll also add in the flex support there, Fielder as well. So Fearless and Fielder both move to Dallas Fuel.
Fielder, I don't think is as shocking because we're just continuously talking about that he came with the rest of the Paris squad.
Yep, and Element Mystic in general. Fearless was also actually a part of Element Mystic in the past, if I'm not mistaken.
Ooh, Fearless?
Yeah, Fearless. Let me double check this.
Fielder was not.
No, wait, wasn't Fielder?
I don't believe Fielder was.
Let me just double check this real quick. I'll double check Fearless first, and then I'll double check.
Hell was.
Contenders. He played for. That's Team CC and Billy. What the hell am I not? Oh no, he was originally Element Mystic. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Element Mystic, but that was a while ago. I think it was back like in 2017.
Yes, Fielder did not play for Element Mystic.
Okay. Yeah.
Fielder so far is the only non-Element Mystic player.
Okay, but he was a very big part of.
Absolutely, and he will actually be able to see some of his old teammates.
Yeah. So that's good. Fielder is not really too much to talk about. I think it'll be pretty good to see him on ping. I kind of have a slightly differing opinion because so many people talk about ping kings, right? Like players being really good on like 300 ping. But I think once you get used to it, it shouldn't be that hard. So I think once Fielder ends up in Dallas playing on not ping, then he probably just stays consistent. I don't really see him getting that much better. I don't really see players who are not on ping getting a lot better, personally. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Are you saying that there's?
I'm saying
repeat that.
I'm basically in a nutshell. What I'm saying is, it really just depends what you're used to playing on. If you're used to playing on ping. If you're used to it, is this like if you're comfortable playing on ping, that should be the same as playing on LAN. Maybe. I don't know.
No, not at all. Not at all. No, because the thing is, just because you're used to ping, the point is your skills are so good that the ping is still going to be holding you back, but you can do a lot with it. But the moment you're not on ping, your reaction times, if they were good on ping, especially in like Fielder's case where he's on like 200 something ping, your reaction times will be even better. You'll be able to snap.
Well, I think playing on ping though, and like having that reaction time comes more down to game sense, knowing like predicting whether it's trajectory or like knowing what the enemy is gonna do.
Yes, but that will still be
has a bigger factor. Maybe, but I think it might be a bit of an adjustment coming off of ping because you'll just have to get back into that groove of things and not having to predict as much. Maybe timing might just be a little different. I think
possibly, but I mean, if he plays with them long enough, it won't matter.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Fearless to Fuel, that's a really good pickup. I think Fearless is a phenomenal main tank. Like main tank was non-existent during finals and throughout end of season playoffs. It's not. I doubt it'll continue like that. I mean, main tank is back in Overwatch, the game itself, so I'm fairly certain that you will see Fearless back, and main tank back and being a big difference maker next season. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I would argue that I wouldn't quite say that yet.
You wouldn't say that yet, and that is because
right now I'm seeing most of the GM players play Roadhog Sigma, and the only main tank, quote unquote, is Ball.
Yeah.
I think you've got a situation where you're about to see again where double off tank is very important. Because right now, Roadhog's still really good. Mm-hmm. On the actual, because I haven't actually talked too much about the actual moves themselves, I don't think Fielder's that big of importance. I think I think he's the most I'm most excited to see on not ping, but I'm also excited for Kepster. who I thought was really good on ping, so I'm excited to see him not on ping. KSA, he doesn't have a team yet. He better get a fucking team. I swear, he was so good on ping.
What
He should be even
what about
better.
McGravy? Is McGravy signed to anyone yet?
No, but McGravy wasn't on ping.
That's fair. But you
Like,
were just
I wanna
saying,
see
but you were,
McGravy on a team.
I mean, you were saying like to see KSA on a team, but and then I was like, oh, off tanks. What about McGravy too?
Yeah, no, I'm talking specifically ping people who
Okay.
are on ping. One I want to see off ping is Iris because he looked awful on ping. He looked really bad. So I want to see him with Atlanta. Not me on ping. Otherwise, talking about Fearless, this one I think is the most interesting and most important.
I think he's probably the best main tank in the league, and I'm pretty sure we've had this discussion before too.
We have. And maybe I
think like overall main tank. If you're going like specific heroes, I'm sure you'll find like certain players like higher on certain heroes. But overall, I think he's one of the best.
He is definitely in the argument in conversation. Don't get me wrong. I don't really think that's important right now, since he's now on a different team.
Yeah, and he will be getting different coaching too. So.
I don't. He may have worked with Rush before. I don't know. He may not have. I don't fully know. But yeah, like, I'm with you. I personally don't want to call it yet. I don't want to right now say he's still the best main tank in the league because we don't know what he'll look like on Dallas.
We don't.
And I find this an interesting move from Shanghai. I'm curious in what Shanghai is going to do. Are they going to just stick with Stand 1? Because Stand 1 looked fine for the most part, but there was clearly a difference between him and Fearless's skill level. So now
we'll get into that a little bit more with rumors, because one of the rumors is Fate is allegedly going to Shanghai.
But I want to speak on not rumors.
Yeah.
And speak in general and say that I would expect them to be trying to go get a main tank, and with not a lot on the market that are really good right now, I think it's a bit concerning.
Yeah.
And to wrap up the main tank discussion, Muze was also announced today to the Gladiators. Muze was a Korean contenders player. Muze played for Talon, who just recently on Plat Chat, if you remember, Super did an interview and they were asking who did you scrim. And do you remember what Korean contenders team he said that he thought was the best when they were scrimming?
Was it 200 MS?
No.
It
was Talon.
Talon. Why am I not seeing Talon? Because I literally just Googled Muze or on Wikipedia, but like Talon is not here and I don't know why. It says he's on Gladiators too, which is whack. But they don't have him on Talon. But anyway, continue on with what you were saying.
Unless the tweet's wrong and they don't have the right team.
What, that he was on?
No, he was. It's above. Yeah, he was on Talon Esports. Look above the ones where he was donated. He was on Talon. He was on Eternal. He was on World Star Gaming Phoenix and 200 MS. But 2 of those were loan, and Eternal Academy was inactive. So through 2020, he's been on a couple different teams.
Okay.
But I'm excited for Muze to be played because I've seen Muze before. Muze is a pretty solid main tank. I'm just hoping we don't have another Roar situation personally. That's all I really look forward to, and that's all I'm going to really say on the matter because right now, Gladiators still have a lot of pieces to fill.
Where did he finish on Talon Esports? Like, where did they finish?
At the Gauntlet, they went 5th and 6th in the Gauntlet when he played with them on there. And that may sound bad, but they were expected to instantly drop. They went far in comparison.
Okay.
And they took Jinji, who won it all. No. Element Mystic won it all, I think. Who won the fucking Gauntlet? Hold on. So I'm glad he just came to ruin the recording.
It's all good.
Gingy came in 4th, even though it's randomly saying they came in 3rd. Yeah, they were expected to go out instantly, along with HSL Esports, but instead they didn't. China and Europe went out instantly. HSL did still go out instantly. China went out instantly, and most New York went out before Talon did.
Okay.
Yeah, they were 5th place. So they lost. They were almost in the 4th place spot, which was really impressive.
Yeah, that is pretty good.
Otherwise, they won Korean Contenders season week 4, season 1 with WGS Phoenix, and then got 3rd place the next go around, and just recently on 200 MS did pretty poorly. So not that he's played perfectly, not been on every amazing team, but I still have faith in him to perform better than Roar, but who knows? He might not.
I think he could. I think he probably will. I don't know how much better he'll be than Roar. I am kind of interested, or I kind of want to. I'm speculative on the Gladiators tank coaching staff, because Gladiators have kind of struggled with finding a main tank. I think since Fisher, before Fisher, you had iRemix. Then Fisher came in and Fisher played the entire time, and then after him you had Roar the next season, who did not look good, and then you had OG, who is typically a very strong main tank, look not so good, and then you had Cloudy coming every now and then.
I would argue the thing is, I do agree with you that we've had a very bad run with main tanks, but the thing I am going to say is that the only one we had that was legit really good main tank was Fisher.
Yes.
Versus OG was still inconsistent on Dallas. And because of that, he was still inconsistent on us. Along with our support line not having their greatest year of all time.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a mixture of a lot of that stuff. So I don't think I'm hoping that there's not much you have to do to coach Muze, and that he's Roar, we know it just ended up being a bad main tank.
Yeah.
No matter what you say, he just ended up being a bad main tank. So I really only think we only have one example of where we've had an actually good, consistent main tank on our team that didn't need to be coached really that much, and that was Fisher. Because hell, you even look at when Fisher benched himself and they let him not do the playoffs. iRemix looked really good after they picked up Fisher. So clearly he got coached to be where the team needed him to be.
But was that Fisher giving feedback, though, or was that the coaches?
We will never know, but knowing Fisher, I would feel like it's more the coaches.
Maybe, because I don't... I won't add on to that because I really can't speak to that, and there's no way that we'll really know.
Exactly.
But
so I want to... That's why I'm not too, I'm glad to see him use. I think he is a good... I've seen him before. I think he's a good main tank. But we won't actually know until he plays, which is unfortunate. And until we know what the rest of the squad looks like. We only know the DPS and tanks now. We still don't know the support line.
Yeah, so far Glads now have Muze,
Space,
Kevster,
Murdering, and Mirror.
So you're still waiting on the back line.
Yep.
Next, let's do Paris, since they dropped... it seems like they've dropped Nico and Soon. But BenBest is still in talks with the team. It's probably, and this is what Platchat said too, where this is a situation where Paris might just be looking to get cheaper contracts from him. Because at this point, nothing they've really done has made sense. You've gotten rid of your best Korean talent, which is just straight up your best talent, and you've also gotten rid of your head coach, who is arguably the reason that your team was so good this year. And you're also not potentially not re-signing your French players. So you're not only going to you're not necessarily going to be a bad team, but you've gotten rid of your best players, and you've also gotten rid of your most popular players. So how are you going to be good, and how are you going to sell jerseys? How are you going to market yourself?
Yeah, but there is a slight problem, I would argue, with that logical thinking. It works on someone like Nico, in my opinion, who looked solid this year.
Quote of the year:
But
there is something flawed with logic.
there is, because it was at least one of the players, and I'll get to him in that after.
Okay.
BenBest, it makes sense because he only looked good this past year, and we're not sure what BenBest we're going to get. And I think most people would rather take a risk on a different main tank. Nico looked good this year, but didn't look super good in the past, and no one's really sure if he's still good to go and where they really want to use him. But Soon's in a different case, in my opinion. Soon, okay, did he look great in the GOATS meta last year? No. But the moment they could play Widow, he looked really good. He looked really good this year. He looked really good when he was on the Valiant. I'm going to say it, he's better than Logix. And Toronto re-signed Logix. I could easily see Soon going somewhere for a decent contract. I actually think he might go to Houston. I could see Houston getting him, because if they don't bring back Linkser, they need a hit scan player. Dante is not a hit scan player. And then you could run Soon on hit scan and Dante on Tracer, and that's a sick DPS line if it double hit scans it. Or if, because technically Tracer's a quote unquote hit scan. If we get a Tracer hit scan meta again, that's a sick DPS line. They pick up a projectile, like a more projectile player. And I think that team's DPS is actually really scary. Because Dante can kind of flex onto a few hit scan and a few.
Well, he can play Sombra and he can play Tracer.
To a really high level, yes.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying you get a really good flex. You get probably Soon on hit scan, and now you can rotate those three and make them really scary. That's why I don't think, like, I know Soon has mentioned he might be going to Valorant, because he's not sure if putting the effort into Overwatch is worth it, and that is respectable. But I definitely could see Soon on another team. I do. I think Soon is a really good hit scan player.
He is. I'll agree with you there. The only part that I would argue with you, I don't even know if I can argue with you on anything you said there. But what I will say is this, yes, Soon is probably a better, or is more likely to be a better hit scan player than Logix, but Logix has just not been on good teams. I think.
Neither was Soon. His second year,
no, but he was still one of the best players on Valiant, and he was a very good player this year as well.
Yeah.
And I think if you see Toronto get good, then I think you might bump up Logix to be about the same level as Soon. I would actually argue that they're probably pretty close.
I wouldn't argue that at all. I think Soon's way more consistent. Logix could be argued for the higher highs, but Logix is way more inconsistent than Soon. Soon is I would argue, one of the most consistent hit scan players I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Where he doesn't really go through that, like, his lows are not that bad. His highs might not peak as hard as others, but his lows are not nearly as bad as many of the other hit scan players in the world.
I can see that. I'm not willing to concede the point, but I'll say I can see that.
Speaking of hit scans, one that you didn't write down that I really wanted to talk about, and I was going to sneak it in here.
Yep, go for it.
Boston let go with Jerry.
Oh, yeah. That's kind of what? Like, did they just let him go? Like, he's a free agent? They didn't sign him or like, trade him or anything like that? Or, sorry, not sign him. Yep, trade him.
They've just said yeah, they've parted ways, that he's going to be in free agency. Have not seen anything, I think, from him. Yeah, he's still on his Twitter, says free agent. So
Yeah, I think I don't know how, as a competitive player or just in general as a competitive person, you could want to stay on Boston. Because if you're
uh,
competitive by nature or at heart, then you want to win, and you're just not going to do that on Boston. And I think Jerry probably wants to win or see if he can get an offer somewhere and actually and be good on another team that isn't Boston and like make a difference and have, I mean, not that he wasn't making a difference on Boston, but making a difference on Boston still means ending up in last place. So, I mean, honestly, I think it's worth it for Jerry to try the free agent market. Whether or not he gets picked up is unbeknownst to me. And I'm at least happy that Boston is giving him a chance to see if he can get signed to another team and win somewhere. Like I would like to like I would like to see Myungbong go to another team and have a chance at winning because he's really fucking good. And I also think Fusions could be one as well, where he gets to go somewhere else and be a really good main tank. I think Fusions is one of the better main tanks in the league despite being on Boston.
absolutely wrong on that. But Fusions has more potential that he is not being able to unlock on Boston. Um, with that, I do say that it's interesting with Myungbong's situation because the
The comment after
article
All Stars.
the article that mentioned that they were staying said that Myungbong wanted to try to win with this team as well, along with Fusions and Color Hex. Yeah, he
Really?
was already under. Yeah, that's what it says, but he's already under existing contract. Meaning, I don't know how much of that's true, and it's just meant to make fans be like, "Oh, we're not getting rid of Myungbong. Don't worry." Even though every single tweet Myungbong tweeted out basically said, "I hate my life in Boston. Please get me out of here."
Yeah, like again,
But
like
the other two Boston's credits and why it might actually still be true is Boston's not scared of trading you away if you're worth a lot of money. And Myungbong would have still been worth a lot of money. He still proved he was really good even on Boston last season. And while, okay, flex support is a pretty common position, hell, Gladiators are currently without one. Myungbong would be a pretty good pickup.
yeah.
So it is interesting that, you know, if they chose to prevent him from trading or giving him the ability to trade, why? Because that just doesn't feel like a Boston move. Clearly, Jerry
Because
was a really good player on Boston.
this
They
is
let him go, so it doesn't feel it does. I do think Boston is technically telling the truth when they said Myungbong wanted to try one more time in his contract to play with Boston, to
yeah.
try to win with them, to see if you
Well,
know.
because Boston's
So
had a new head coach, didn't they?
they did get a new head coach. And Mineral got off head coach and is now just I think general manager, which is
So Huck's gone.
really good. No, Huck's still owning the team.
Huck owns the team. He's
Oh,
an
Huck
owner.
doesn't own the team, but Huck is still like. Let me look back at his title. I think it's God Emperor of Gaming or something like that. Let me look here. Let's see here. Management. Organization. Huck is president of gaming.
I don't know what the fuck that means, but okay.
It's a made up position that Robert Kraft let Huck have, so he's yeah. And if anyone thinks I'm joking, you can look it up on Wikipedia right now. He is yeah, like Mineral just as manager.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that he's supposed to be the general manager or what, but Mineral is a manager, while Huck is the president of gaming, and Sail Wolf is team manager. I don't know what any of those mean.
And who's head coach then?
Lori, the guy they picked up.
And Laurie, is he? Do you know anything about him? I don't know.
He came from Korean Contenders. Coached WGS Phoenix, who won Korea this recently. Who just won Contenders Korea.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I could see the players like wanting to take a shot under him. Um What do you want to go on next? We can go to Surefour next.
Save Surefour for last.
Save
probably.
Surefour for last. All right, so the next would be Toronto Signs Beast or resigns Beast and Signs KDG.
Toronto is drunk.
I don't think so. The KDG signing I'm a big fan of. And the KDG signing also makes the Beast signing make sense.
No, it does not.
Yes, it does.
Because how does it make sense?
The way it makes sense is the reason it doesn't make sense is also the reason it makes sense, which is also the reason it doesn't make sense. So KDG, and what have I been screaming about for quite a while about coaches and teams in the Overwatch League Diamond? And also about Toronto this past season. Teams don't use all of their players. They don't take advantage of that. KDG, when he was on Seoul, basically ran 2 different rosters. One where Fisher was the starting main tank, and one where Marvel was the starting main tank. Or like they just swapped out, you know what I'm saying? He uses the tools he has available to him. He is also able to get more out of his players. So, knowing that KDG typically runs bigger rosters, Beast isn't necessarily going to be your starting main tank. He could be a sub. He will most likely be a sub, assuming you sign someone better than Beast. And I'm also expecting KDG to get more out of Beast and whatever team he puts together. I'm expecting Toronto to have probably close to a 12-man roster that they swap out and use to push each other and the fellow players on the roster to a higher level. Furthermore, Toronto was pretty high on Beast this past season despite bringing in Numlocked. And because Beast did have some pretty good moments. I think Beast mechanics are probably his best aspect. Where am I going with this? What am I trying to say? Sorry, another point to add on to this also is that people weren't high on Sato the last 2 seasons. KDG comes in and Sato has arguably the best season to date.
Counter argument. Sato had a 10 times better backline than he's ever had. He had a better off tank. Well, Poco leveled up his game and had Fury as his off tank now. His DPS,
yes,
arguably,
but having a better team around you doesn't mean your mistakes aren't exposed.
Many people said that Sato was not a bad main tank and was under. Okay, the fans hated him, but a lot of analysts said he was underrated and that he was actually a surprise. So the biggest Sato simp out there said that Sato would be better in this coming Philly year. KDG has not been on a team where a player, I'm going to say it, is as bad as Beast right now. And that's he's pretty solid. He's an okay main tank. But what I'm saying is that KDG's teams, Seoul and Philly, both had almost arguably stacked rosters in many cases, in many places.
Yeah.
Like you talk about the double Seoul roster. Look at the B team that had almost
Marvel,
just players as the A team.
Mm-hmm.
Including players like I think Jexa was on the B team. You mentioned it, Marvel was on the B team. Like players that would become the A team later.
Yeah.
Were really good players, and we know they're really good players.
Yeah.
So
I'm not upset but I guess at the end of the day I'm not upset about the Beast signing because I do expect them to sign more players. I'm not going to freak out until I see at least the 6-man roster. But I do think Beast had some highlights, and I think there's more to Beast, and the reaction I've seen to KDG is that he has been able to get more out of his players than some other coaches. So I'm actually expecting better things out of Beast this coming season if he gets played. And yeah, I'm pretty excited to actually see him because he did have some pop off moments, And I think the major reason that Toronto actually signed Numlocked and started him over Beast this current season was Numlocked's shot calling ability. I think that was the biggest difference.
Which currently you do not have a shot caller.
No, currently you don't. But you also only have 2 people signed to your roster, so I'm not freaking out yet.
People that I think are very big question marks.
I
Logix is solid, but I don't like that we've already re-signed 2 people from last year's roster, and they're not even.
Yeah. The other thing too,
Logix is one of the highest on the list. I will say that arguably, but Beast was not. Beast was low on my list on who you should re-sign if you're going to re-sign anyone from that roster.
yeah,
You let go a lot of people that I would have put over Beast, and a few that I would have put over Logix. I think this is concerning. It could. You are right to wait till a 6-man roster is fully unveiled, but I am scared for that 6-man roster right now, and I think you should be as a Toronto fan.
yeah. I guess where do I want to leave this? I'm trying to think. No, I'm not worried about it yet. The team re-signing Beast leads me to expect even like a much better performance from him, especially now that KDG is the head coach. And what I'll also say is, I was watching the CA Overwatch podcast, and they had Adamu on the podcast, and he's one of the co-owners for the Toronto Defiant. And what he wanted, or what he was saying on there, is that their plan is, because they haven't had a team stick around for a full season yet, with the exception of Logix. Logix is now going on Toronto for the 4th year in a row, but he wants a team that will be together and develop and get better over the next 2 years.
Third.
And I
2.5.
think, pardon?
Toronto has not been around for 4 years.
Sorry, not 4 years. 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. So this is going into their 3rd season. My bad. But right now, what he says, he wants a team that will grow and get better over the next 2 years, and they signed Logix because they believe no matter what team they put together, whether it's Western or mixed, that he would fit into that and be an important part of that team. And I believe that they re-signed Beast because they believe he's a person that will continue to grow and get better as well. I think Beast has a lot of potential. I think his mechanics are really good. I don't think his game sense is bad either. There's just something missing. And maybe KDG can add that piece to his game, assuming he is a starting main tank, which I don't think he will be.
The one comment I'll make that before we move on is, if that's the goal that they want to go with, why didn't you start with that this year?
What do you mean?
If your goal was to get players that would improve over time, why didn't you do that this past year? Why'd you get players like Surefour, Agilities, Kariv, Cruz? Why'd you get all these players who they're at their peak more than likely, if not past it?
This year might have been more about, I guess, growing the fan base and giving, because this year's roster was also a very popular roster.
Yeah, you just lost it.
So not
So you
only
lost all your fans.
I don't think you lost all your fans. I think I think sorry, not all of them. I don't think. I think there's still a lot of Toronto fans around, and I think they'll do fine. There's still other players that you can sign. Crimso's still unsigned if you wanted to bring back a Canadian player. I don't know if Crimso will be an upgrade over Kariv, but he is an option. Oh, I'm genuinely confused and have no idea where Toronto is going right now.
Yes, and I think that's the most concerning part.
Yeah, I'm still gonna wait. I'm gonna wait for I want to wait and see what they have, and then give my reaction.
I'm gonna say this, and this is why, that this organization is yet to prove to me that they can put together a good roster. It's been 2 years now. They've failed twice, and with 2 pieces coming back, Logic's being one of them, who was on both those pretty bad rosters. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not blaming Logic's, but in a lot of these cases, it's part of the change. Look at what Dallas did.
Yeah.
Dallas said, I buy everyone.
But this is Dallas going to their 4th year now.
Fair. But we were saying that they needed to do this a couple years ago. Because what they didn't do, they never did it. They only kept Doha this time and built around Doha and said, we are legit blowing up the entire roster. And that's not what technically Toronto has done. They kept 2 players from that old roster that, again,
yes,
for a lot of people.
But again, I'm not expecting Beast to start. Logic's maybe, but we'll see. Because once they brought in Surefour and Agilities were your pretty much exclusive DPS duo this, like, for the early part of the season, and rightfully so.
Anyways,
next,
what's next after Toronto?
I think it's Surefour now.
Well,
Surefour and then I would rather. Do you want to just do rumors last, or do you want to
do Surefour last?
Okay,
it's not actually important.
Okay, so rumors is so one is Agilities to Vancouver. So I'll let you start off with that one.
I think this one is the one I want to talk about the most, actually, out of all the rumors, because I actually think this one could be the truest. That's not the greatest word to use there, but I don't care.
Yeah.
Dalton is a hit scan player. To many people who don't know that, Dalton is a hit scan player. He was not good on Genji because he doesn't play projectile. I have watched Dalton in contenders. He used to be a Gladiators Legion player. I pay attention to my Gladiators Legion players. Dalton is a hit scan player. Look back when he was on Tracer. Look back when he was on hit scan. He actually played really fucking well. Dalton doesn't play projectile. Vancouver needs a projectile player, and they didn't have one.
Yeah. I think
Shockwave apparently is a hit scan, and they were like, "Oh, he can play Echo. That's fine. Echo's not meta. Oh, we're fucked."
Yeah,
like so I think this is a big important pickup if this does happen, and I think it could really help to Vancouver. Could they get someone potentially better? Maybe, but the situation they're in, they still don't have a lot of options because they can't get Korean talent, so they're stuck to Western talent. And when it comes to Western projectiles, you could get Blase, who's pretty good. He's still a free agent right now. There are a couple options, but I think
personally, I think I would actually take Agilities over Blase. Not just because I think Agilities is better, but also if you're Vancouver, Agilities is he is Canadian, and I'm pretty sure he's from Alberta, which is like one province over. So,
yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like, you depending on what you look at, who you view, and what characters you're talking about, there are some reasons to pick Agility. So I think this one is a very likely chance to happen.
Yeah, I like it. I like that rumor. It's I think it's a good rumor. Yeah, thank you. I don't really have too much to add to that. I think it makes sense for Vancouver from a marketing standpoint, and I think it the only hesitation I have is Agility's best heroes are Doomfist, Pharah, and Genji, which, I mean, Doomfist has been meta every now and then. Same with Pharah. Genji, not for a while. His Mei needed work this year. I think he definitely got better at it as the year went on. So you could see him. I think you could see him be pretty good. But
I would actually also argue Blase's Doomfist is better than Agility's. I think Blase has the Mei better. Blase has a better Doomfist. I think their Pharahs are I would actually skip the slight edge to Agilities, and then Agility's Genji is way better. But that's, again, you mentioned it. Genji became meta real quickly one time this past season, but that's because he became insanely powerful.
Yep.
You can't rely on that very often, and other times Agility just didn't look that good.
No. Next is Pelican to Rain.
This one's not that big of an importance because Rain dropped all their coaches, and so Pelican coming in as the new coach. I don't know if he'll be head coach or an assistant coach.
Well, for people who don't know, Pelican was actually, let me pull it up. But Pelican was the head coach for
He was the coach of O2 Blast. who have always performed pretty solidly in Korean contenders, but I don't know when the last time they won it was.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they have performed pretty well. They won it. Apparently, they won Contenders 2020 Season 1 against
So,
Runaway, too.
Like in August, I think. No, not August. Maybe August was the first round of contenders.
That would have been back in June, actually.
June. Okay. So,
yeah,
okay.
May or June, one of the two.
So okay, yeah. But that's not bad, but that's still a couple months ago.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see. But
I think he could be good. Because the reason he's on the list is I'm pretty sure because Halo of Thoughts on Twitter put that out saying that he was that he would be one to watch out for.
Yeah, that doesn't shock me. Is there any other rumor that's actually worth talking about?
Fate to Shanghai might be a little bit worth talking about just because Shanghai did get rid of Fearless, so that would be I mean, assuming it did happen, Fate would be better than Stand 1, not as good as Fearless, so still doesn't make sense as to why Shanghai would trade Fearless.
Florida also got rid of their backup main tank.
Yeah, that's true too. So
why would they get rid of Fate?
Yeah.
Like that's why I don't think this is happening, because it makes no sense for Florida, especially because they just had the problem with them being like Halo accidentally didn't read everything thoroughly enough in his sources, so he I think just mixed up some information and got a few and said a few wrong things. He's apologized for it. Don't go harass him, please, for the love. Don't go harass him. I like his work in the scene. He's not always right, but when you're talking about rumors, you're not always going to be right. And I think that's fine. Especially with he's really our only rumor person, like half the time, where we wait till teams announce it, and teams like to not announce forever. And I like the rumor mill stuff coming from these. It is nice. So he apologized, though, because he accidentally said that Florida was talking about trying to get Muze. That was not true. Albert came out and said we were not in talks with Muze, not at all. So because that came out not to be true, it makes me even more confident that I do not think Fate's going to Shanghai, because they have had no talks. We don't know as of right now. They could have. Someone else could have been there, but right now, we know, they have not talked about getting another main tank, and they would be down a main tank if they did choose to get rid of Fate. And that's with how solid Fate had been played this past year. From people thinking he was washed to actually looking really solid. I think that'd be a very dumb move in my opinion.
Yeah. And then the last rumor is going to be Yakpung to Nixel. This
went out of my face. This went out of my face. This is dumb.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the only reason I kind of bring this up is because New York has been trying to be more aggressive this past season, and was it the season before? Or not really? No, not really the season.
No, just the season.
Just the season. So if they're still trying to go this route, then sure, you could bring in Yakpung. Yakpung was quite aggressive while he was on Toronto. Not always necessarily his fault. I mean, sure, yeah, probably his fault, because I remember one time he just got hooked into the enemy team as Orisa. And then I remember the casters going, why is he there? That's so aggressive. He shouldn't be there. That wasn't necessarily his fault, but I mean, you should be aware of cooldowns in game. So not the greatest. Didn't have the greatest performance his first season in Overwatch League. He's performed pretty good, at least from what I've heard, in Korean contenders, but he also performed pretty good before he ended up in Overwatch League, so...
You're just a Yakpung fanboy.
I am not a Yakpung fanboy. You think I want him back on Toronto? I would rather have Beast on Toronto, which is currently happening. I would actually rather have Numlocked on Toronto.
He's actually playing for O2 Blast.
Yep, he went back.
And they performed third in a different one and fifth and sixth in this latest Korean contenders.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I say get this out of my face. Look, New York has released a lot of players. They're trying to change up a lot of the feel.
Okay,
But
but the players they've released were players that they added. They still have Jonak. They still have SBB. They still have Libero. They still have Onimo, don't they?
So they got rid of all the players that were supposed to make them aggressive and kept a lot of the players that play passively.
And then they got rid of Mano.
Interesting, Fracture. So why would they go get someone who's aggressive?
I don't know. That's if they wanted to go that route. But
They're not.
are they? But that doesn't make sense either, because I don't think them playing passive is gonna work for them.
The thing is, I think they're still better off passive because here's the fundamental problem of New York.
Well, if they're better off passive and they're going for that, why'd they get rid of Mano?
They're trying to reinvigorate in Nixel. And I do think they're going to try to go aggressive again. But the fundamental problem is how the team's been coordinated for a while. They still rely on Jonak way too much in a lot of cases. Hell, I wanted to see Mondu stay and replace Onimo. Guess who they got rid of and guess who they kept so far? Ring ring. They got rid of Mondu and they've kept Onimo. Onimo, I would argue, is way more passive than Mondu was. We were told that Mondu was supposed to be the aggressive support player. That man got like one chance to play. So you tell me.
Yeah.
Why would they keep so many passive players and get rid of all the aggressive ones if they wanted to go aggressive? Again, I do think they are still going to try to, because I'm thinking they're trying to really just reinvent the team. But I do not think Yakpung's going. I just don't. I don't think he's good enough. I think he's not
but
good
on
enough.
the overall note of Nixel, though, if you're trying to go aggressive, why are you keeping the same players that you've had the last 3 seasons now going on 4?
Because Jonak sells money. Sabiobi's a team leader. He sells money. Don't know why Onimo. And that's it, right? I think that's the only players they have on the team, right?
Libero.
Libero's a utility god, so of course you wouldn't get rid of Libero.
Yep. And I think that leaves us off with Surefour, unless there's anything else you want to add to this.
Not that I can think of. So, we only want to do. I want to do this at the end. We talked about this. I just mostly kind of want to give it more as kind of a tribute. Just say, we were both big Surefour fans. He played for my Gladiators the first couple seasons. He was actually the only player on the Gladiators I knew before coming into the Overwatch League. I love Surefour. He's my favorite player in the Overwatch League. I've enjoyed his play throughout the years. I was sad to see him go, but I was happy to see him on Toronto for a while. Sadly, he got benched, and from my side, I just hope Surefour takes his time to make his mental health better, and I do hope to see him hopefully coming next year. Not this coming year, but the year after.
Yeah, I've got the same hopes as you, and pretty much same point as well. To be honest, really the only players I knew going into Overwatch League was Team Canada, because I watched them perform the first 2 years at World Cup. So like I knew Agility's XQC, but Surefour was probably the biggest name from the Team Canada roster that I knew, and he was really fun to watch. I remember the merry-go-round last season. I remember watching that live. I was literally screaming. That was such an insane play. He's really entertaining to watch. I really wish he played more this season for Toronto. But I get it. You know, you've got to take care of yourself, your mental health, and all those kind of things. And I don't know. I'm a whore for speculation. So part of me wonders if, he might just enjoy streaming and stick with that. And if he does, all the best to him. But I really hope to see him back. And yeah. Cool. So I guess we end this episode here then, eh?
Sounds good.
Alrighty. So thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you
We'll try to
enjoyed.
get better. We'll try to be more consistent. We apologize for the long break. There will be one more long break come mid-December.
Yeah, because Diamond's choosing his hoe of a family over his bro.
Well, okay. I can record, but I'll be on my phone. So if you want bad audio from my side, I can still do it. I'm going to say this. If there's a lot of big news, which there might be, I'm willing to go even with the bad audio to try to give some good analysis and not have to wait so long. If there's nothing that really happens in those 2 weeks, then we won't do the episode.
I genuinely that sounds good. I genuinely doubt that there will be much over the next 2 weeks. I feel like this week's been pretty quiet, and I think that a lot of teams are still running trials.
Yeah,
and things like that. So,
well, again, that might be the only other time when we have another long break where we won't do an episode. But we should at least try to consistently talk about a few things, even if one episode just ends up being nothing but rumors. We'll still try to touch it.
Yeah, we can also do something on like Overwatch 2 if we want, like if you want, or something like that. But otherwise, if you made it to the end of this video, I mean, go check out some of the other ones on the channel. I put a lot of effort into Adventures in Overwatch Ranked, which there will be another one where it'll just be Diamond. I swear to God, I'm gonna do one of you Diamond just out of context.
Sounds like a plan.
It does sound like a plan. But I'll let you wrap up this video because I wrapped up the last one very awkwardly. I don't know if you ever saw that.
I did not need to rewatch because I was like, I know what happens in there.
Yeah.
So thank you so much everyone for watching. Again, check us out next week. We will try to have more information, and tell us what your favorite team is down in the comments. Who are you rooting for? Who are you looking for in this offseason? And are you currently happy with how they're going?
Cool. I guess that's it. Peace, nerds.